afternoon and welcome to News Around Africa on Channel 38, Facebook and YouTube channel. I am Esther Wilson. Guinea's President Mamadi Doumbouya, 41, has dismissed more than 170 soldiers for desertion, including a colonel who helped him seize power in a coup in 2021. Colonel Michael Lama was a member of the Special Forces Group GFS, the elite army unit which Doumbouya once commanded. When he overthrew President Alpha Condé, Doumbouya said he would not seek election and would hand over to civilian rule. He went on to renege on that promise and stood in December's election, which he won with a landslide. The dismissals, announced in a decree on state television, are thought to be part of the ongoing efforts by the president to consolidate his control and prevent potential challenges to his leadership. Those in the firing line came from various branches of the military. No details were given about the circumstances of the alleged desertions of the 173 military personnel when General Amara Kamara, the president's spokesman, read out the decree on Monday. From camouflage to tracksuit, Guinea's junta leader becomes civilian president. Colonel Lama caught public attention during the September 21 coup when he was photographed in a vehicle carrying deposed President Condé. Troops had stormed the presidential palace and arrested Condé, who had been re-elected the year before for a controversial third term in office amid violent protests. Since the coup, the West African nation has seen a crackdown on many civil liberties. Media outlets have been shut down, protests have been banned, and some political parties have been suspended, while activists and opposition figures have been arrested or exiled. Two of Guinea's biggest opposition parties, RPG, ARC, NCL, and UFDG, were excluded from last year's election, which saw the former junta leader win 87% of the votes. Over the last 5 years, Doumbouya has been focused on trying to turn Guinea, which is rich in mineral resources, from a supplier of raw materials to more of an industrial processing hub. Former head of Rwanda's presidential guard, Tom Byabagamba, 59 years of age, who once served as President Paul Kagame's personal bodyguard, has died in jail. He was arrested in 2014 along with his brother-in-law, Frank Rusagara, a retired brigadier general, for spreading rumors and tarnishing the image of the country and government. Rights groups expressed concern over their cases, framing them as part of a pattern of government repression. Throughout his trial, Colonel Byabagamba denied the allegations against him, saying they were fabricated. Byabagamba's brother, David Himbara, told the BBC Great Lakes Services his family did not know the cause of death as no one was allowed to see him in all these years. Rights groups have repeatedly accused Kagame's government of restricting political opposition and silencing critics within Rwanda and abroad. In 2016, a military court convicted Byabagamba and imprisoned him for 21 years, although this was later reduced to 15 years on appeal. Rusagara, who had also been Secretary General of the Defense Ministry, was given a 20-year sentence. Rusagara died in prison in March last year. At the time, Human Rights Watch HWR described it as the lonely death of a general, noting that his family had not heard his voice since 2014, days before his arrest. His family was informed by the authorities that Rusagara had been ill with cancer, the rights group said. The conviction of the two men had followed a flawed trial marked by serious allegations of torture and witness tampering, according to HRW. Campaign group Freedom Now had also previously criticized their detention as arbitrary and as having violated international law. Biabagamba leaves behind 2 sons and a wife. U.S. President Donald Trump's senior Africa envoy has asked the UN to extend its arms embargo from Darfur to all of Sudan, warning the war could spread across the wider region. The UN Security Council must act to stop external financial and military support to the parties, such as drones and related technologies, from entering Sudan, Masad Bulu said. Drone attacks are escalating with both the army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces (RSF) accused of using them now. Now in its 4th year, the conflict has killed tens of thousands of people and forced 14 million more to flee their homes. But a wider arms embargo would require a Security Council vote, with Russia and China opposing the move. They said it will affect Sudan's army's effectiveness. Sudan's UN envoy agreed, adding it would weaken protection for civilians. The army controls much of Sudan's central and eastern regions, while the RSF is headquartered in the western region of Darfur and also controls areas in the south. As the UN Security Council heard appeals about the arms embargo, the army was reported to have carried out drone strikes on RSF positions in Niala in Darfur. Niala Airport has become one of the paramilitary group's chief logistics hubs, and the attack came hours after a large cargo flight landed in the city. The devastating conflict, where both sides have reasons to keep fighting Sudan's invisible children born in war with no legal identity. An arms embargo covering the Darfur region has been in place for more than 2 decades and will expire next month if not amended or renewed. Observers say it seems to have done little to stop the flow of weapons into Darfur, which has witnessed some of the worst fighting since the conflict erupted in April 2023. Ethnic violence witnessed 20 years ago has reignited in Darfur, with UN experts saying atrocities allegedly committed by RSF fighters as they took over the city of El Fasher last October showed the hallmarks of genocide. At the council meeting, UN humanitarian chief Tom Fletcher warned that fighting had in recent weeks been characterized by the heavy use of drones. Rosemary DiCarlo, the UN's Under-Secretary General for Political and Peace-Building Affairs, told the Council that civilians were facing the unrelenting consequences of one of the worst humanitarian crises of our time. Drones launched by both sides have repeatedly struck markets, schools, fuel stations, and water infrastructures, she said, adding that the UN had documented that 1,100 civilians had died in drone strikes between January and June this year. DiCarlo noted that the true death toll since the war began was uncertain, but was likely to be in hundreds of thousands. The continued use of sophisticated weaponry pointed to ongoing external support to both sides, she added. Bolo said the U.S. plan included a proposal to increase the number of experts monitoring the embargo. He asked the Council to take steps to curtail external actors fueling the conflict, adding that this risks drawing more regional actors and neighbors deeper into Sudan's conflicts. Sudan's military chiefs seemed unfazed by the proposals under discussion by the UN. The continuing talk about the possibility of imposing sanctions on the country will neither affect us nor weaken our resolve, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan told a police graduation event in the capital Khartoum on Monday. The flow of weapons into Sudan has been analyzed by various experts. Amnesty International has in the past said it's found evidence of weapons manufactured in Serbia, Russia, China, Turkey, Yemen, and United Arab Emirates (UAE) being used in Sudan. The UAE in particular is accused of being the main provider of arms and support to the RSF, who in turn is accused of using the UAE as a marketplace for illicit gold sales. Both parties have repeatedly denied these allegations. Sudan's military has used Turkish and Iranian drones, and it receives political and other backing from Egypt, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. The two warring rivals had been allies, coming to power together in a coup in 2021, but fell out over an internationally backed plan to move towards civilian rule. That's all we have time for on this edition of News Around Africa on Magic TV on channel 38, Facebook and YouTube channel. I am Esther Wilson.